Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I always am blessed whenever I go to the Faith Wesleyan Holiness Church, first as well, but Faith, especially because you have invited me this evening, and I find that the fellowship is really genuine, and I really do feel a blessing from the service. So I'm glad to be here this evening. So my name is Sandra Bradley, and I work for the Department of Human Services in the VI Family Caregiver Support Program. Now, the Family Caregiver Support Program is a part of the Senior Citizens Affairs, and that division has many different units. And one of them is the Senior Center, and that's where the seniors go and they have their recreation, their activities, their outings. And that unit is also responsible for the Senior Month or the Old Americans Month activities, which we just concluded last week. Some of you may have participated, some of you may be aware of those activities, but those are organized by our Senior Center and their program directors. We also have the Adult Protective Services Unit, and that unit deals with suspected cases of abuse or neglect. So if you suspect there is abuse or neglect, you don't know for sure, but you see something, you hear something that sounds a little off, you can always report those suspicions to our Adult Protective Services Unit. The other unit that we have in this division is where you can get your senior ID cards. So once you're 60 years, you can get your senior ID card and it lasts for 5 years, and right now it is free. We also have the nutrition program. You're aware of the Meals on Wheels that operate 5 days a week, and they bring the meals to the seniors in their homes. We have homemaker services, and this unit, the workers go out to the homes and they do light housekeeping, whether it's cleaning up the kitchen, the bathroom, and things like that. We also have the RSVP, or the Senior Community Employment Program, where the seniors 55 years and older can get job preparation skills and meaningful employment at the end of these preparation skills. And finally, the program that I work for, the VI Family Caregiver Support Program. Now, this program is different from all of the other senior programs in that we do not provide any direct services to seniors. We provide direct services to caregivers who are taking care of seniors, at least in most cases. So our program takes care of persons who are taking care of a loved one. And for us, a caregiver has to be at least 18 years old. But when people ask me if I deal with seniors, it's kind of yes and no, because our caregivers can be 18, 19, 20 years old, but the person that they're taking care of has to be at least 60 years old. So you have to be at least 18 years old. The person that you're taking care of has to be at least 60 years old, or they can be under 60 if they have a disability. We also have a grandparents raising grandchildren program, and it's a grandparent or an older relative who is taking care of a youngster who lives with them, who they have adopted, or they have some legal guardianship over this child. And we also have a grief and loss component to our program. So if you have suffered a loss of your loved one, then you can also be a part of our program. I know you mentioned having questions at the end, but I would prefer to have questions as I go along, if persons have questions. So can I ask for questions at this point?
So good evening, everyone. This is Sam. So as per our presenter, Sister Bradley's guidance, if you have a question as she goes along, just simply unmute your mic or raise your virtual hand. I will identify you and then let Sister Bradley knows the pause that she has a question. So Sister Bradley, what we'll do as we go along, if I see a mic open, and please, this is particularly the time, folks, that you need to monitor your devices, because if your mic is open, I'm going to assume you have a question or comment. I'll then identify you. Don't simply just unmute your mic and start speaking. Wait to be identified, and then I'll get Sister Bradley's attention. So with that being said, Sister Bradley, I don't see any mics open and any virtual hands raised, but if they do raise the hand or open their mic, I will definitely let you know, and then you respond accordingly. Okay?
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
So our program operates on all three islands, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. And some of the things that we do is that we provide information. We are mandated by the federal government. This is a federal program. And one of our mandates is to provide information or resources or referrals. So part of us doing that is we have workshops or trainings throughout the year. We also have a conference, which is a really well anticipated function every year. And it usually takes place at a hotel during a weekend. So we go to the hotel, we stay 1 or 2 nights, and we have guest presenters from off island who come and present in their specific area. And we've been talking about Alzheimer's, at least you've been hearing about it. And that is a really hot topic that almost every year somebody wants information on Alzheimer's. As we know, that many persons, and they're getting younger and younger actually, who are getting Alzheimer's disease. And so it's really a challenging situation that many family members and caregivers have to deal with. So our trainings and conferences can deal with Alzheimer's, legal matters, establishing boundaries, any topic that's of relevance to the caregiver. We find persons who are experts in these topics, who may have even written books on these topics, and we invite them and they present to our caregivers. We make referrals, and as I mentioned, with referrals to legal services, to adult protective services, to any entity that we find that can help our caregivers. We make referrals to those agencies or entities. We have something in our program called respite reimbursement. And that is a program where if you have someone who helps you with your loved one, who comes in, let's say twice a week, maybe from 8 to 12 or whatever time it may be, and they help you with your loved one, to help to bathe them, to feed them, help them to walk around, or just to provide companionship, then our program can reimburse you up to 200 hours a year at a rate of $18 an hour if the person has Alzheimer's, once funds are available. So again, it's once a year we can reimburse for you having someone come into your home and take care of your loved one, up to 200 hours a year once funds are available. And similar to that, we have something that's called a supplemental reimbursement, where we can reimburse you. Right now, it's up to $150. It varies depending on the funds that we have available for the purchase of things like Ensure, Boost, Glucerna, wipes, pull-ups, and what we call assistive devices, which are things like wheelchairs, walkers, canes, grab bars, those types of devices. We can also reimburse you for that. Once you present your receipt, we can reimburse you for those purchases. Again, it's only once a year, but we know that caregiving has great financial strains. So these reimbursements really help in the caregiving. We also provide counseling. So once you're part of our program, you can get counseling up to 4 free sessions per year of counseling. If you just need a little extra and you're having maybe a challenge, a particular challenge, either you or your family, it can be you or your family can get the counseling to deal with your loved one. You have some challenges, some issues that you need to just let it all out, to cry, to get help, to get redirection. You can always be a part of our counseling sessions, just you and the facilitator, or you and your family, along with the facilitator. Now, the main thing that our program offers is support groups. And that's where some resources for persons who are taking care of people with Alzheimer's can benefit. So they can benefit from the counseling, from the referrals, from all of those things I just mentioned. And also we have support groups. So we have caregiver support groups. We have a grief and loss support group. We have a group for grandparents raising grandchildren. And we added about 2 years ago an Alzheimer's support group. Again, because of the increase in persons who have Alzheimer's disease, we decided to start an Alzheimer's support group. So this support group in particular is held once a month. It's the second Tuesday of each month for 1 hour from 5:30 to 6:30. And the group is conducted or facilitated by a facilitator who is off island, because right now, since COVID, we have been meeting mostly virtually on the phone via conference call. And so the facilitator guides the group, and any topic that relates to caregiving for a person with Alzheimer's, the facilitator can decide on the topic, or the persons in the group are free to say, you know, I want more information about this. I need more resources about this. I'm having this problem and I need help. And the facilitator, as well as the other persons in the group who are having the same experience as you are, can give you advice and tips and suggestions. So the purpose of these support groups is for you to get support, to get tips, to get resources, to know that you're not alone, and that all of your feelings of frustration, anger, dismay, whatever feelings you have, they are normal, and that other persons who are taking care of loved ones have the same feelings. So there's nothing to be afraid of or ashamed of, and you don't have to feel isolated thinking that, you know, I'm the only person who's going through this. There are so many caregivers out there, and many of them don't even identify as caregivers. They just say, you know, I'm taking care of my husband, my wife, my mother. It's just what I do. It's what we do because it's our culture, when in fact you are a caregiver. And once you identify as a caregiver, then it's easier for you to accept help, to accept resources, and to join different programs that can help you and your loved one in taking care of your loved one. So our facilitators are, they all licensed and they are trained persons, so they can give you good information. You can trust their word. Our groups are confidential, so whatever you say is held in confidence, and you won't have to worry that somebody's going to share what you're going through. It's just between the group. I don't even take part in the group. Just the caregivers and the facilitator are part of the group. Okay. Any questions at this point?
Sister Bradley, you're doing a great job. You're doing such a great job. You're touching on all of the inquiry points, but I don't see any mics open, and I certainly don't see any virtual hands raised. So you can continue. And again, folks, okay, Arnold Brown, I see a mic open. Good evening. Welcome. Do you have a question or comment you want to share with us?
Yeah, just good evening, everyone. And I don't know if it's preliminary, but I want to applaud Dr. Pond first for incorporating these sessions. I want to thank Sister Bradley for this information, something I wish I had known some years ago. It's very informative what you're sharing. A lot of things you're sharing. I wasn't privileged to know about all those information at the time when I was dealing with the situation. So I really want to commend Dr. Pond, and I want to commend you for sharing all this golden information for those who are going through being a caregiver at this point in time.
Thank you so much, Arnold, for sharing that word. And I also see Sister Jessie Benair, your hand is raised. Good evening. Welcome to our discussion, Sister Benair.
Good evening, host,
Good evening.
Presenter. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Echo what Brother Arnold said, but I appreciate you mentioning caregiver, because I've never thought of myself, or I never did until taking my to the doctor maybe a couple months ago, even though I've been doing it for a while. When the doctor asks, are you a caregiver? And just as you said, I just think I'm their daughter, so I just do what daughters do. I didn't think of myself as a caregiver, so I appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah. Also, a question as to whether you are in any way connected with AARP, because I've done some courses with them in reference to taking care of elderly and so forth.
So AARP, we collaborate to some extent. They will let us know what activities they're having. For instance, there was a legal conference that they held that is co-sponsored. I think it was earlier this month or last month. So they will let us know what activities they're having, and we share the word with our caregivers so that they can attend and get the information. And they have movies for grown-ups. I mean, because we have to relax and unwind, even as caregivers, make the time for ourselves. So they have movies for grown-ups, and they would let us know that where they have their movie screenings, and we will let our caregivers know. So it's usually in terms of information and their movie screenings.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. Well, Sister Bradley has paused in our presentation. I'm sure there's some more nuggets of information you want to share. Anyone wants to take advantage of this break in the discussion to share a question or comment? If not, Sister Bradley, you have the floor. You may continue.
Okay. So one of the questions that we get asked a lot of the calls that come into human services, people want to know, somebody come to my parents' home and assist my parent or whoever it is? And unfortunately, we don't do that. What happens here in the Virgin Islands and in the Caribbean is that in many cases, and I did the same thing, the children grow up and leave home, they leave the island, they go to the States, they go to England, wherever they go to, because they want a better life, they want a new environment, and they go and they get married, or they are pursuing higher education, and they get their jobs, and they decide they're not going back home. One of the effects of this decision is that 10, 20, 30 years later, your parents are older, or your parent, and maybe they have been living by themselves, maybe they have their own home. And for some of them, they've reached a point where they can no longer help themselves. And people would call us and say, can you get somebody to go to my mother's home and look after her? And I have to say, no, we don't provide that service. We don't provide home care services. What can you do? And they say, well, I am away, I can't get away from my job, I have my expenses, and this becomes a recurring problem. The children are off island, the parent is here, the parent needs help, and the children are not around. So that's something for you to really, really think about, because we don't know how we're going to age and what help we might need. So it's important early to put in place plans, preparations for just in case we need some extra help and there's nobody around. Start now to make plans for your own long-term care and those of your loved ones. Because like I said, the children are off island, they're not relocating, and they say, well, my mother doesn't make enough money to pay somebody to come into the home, when that is really the only choice that you have. Either you have to help them out, they have to pay somebody to come into their home, or they have to go into a senior home. And the senior homes and the resources for seniors in general in the Virgin Islands, maybe even in the Caribbean, are lacking. So to my knowledge, there are only 3 senior homes. You may have heard of La Resulta, which is around Bolonga Bay. It was formerly owned by Mrs. Massac. It's now owned by 2 Greenaway sisters. I think they're sisters. And that's a senior home for persons who need help. They may be bedbound, they may need help with baths, with feeding and those kind of stuff. That's La Resulta in Bolonga Bay. And then there's also a place called Jerry Care Senior Home, and that's in Contant. And the last one I know of is the Queen Louise Home for the Aged, which is run by the Virgin Islands government. So the first 2 I mentioned, La Resulta and Jerry Care, you have to pay out of pocket. As far as I know, they're not Medicaid or Medicare certified. So you have to pay out of pocket to the tune of maybe $3,000 a month. And most people said to me, I don't have that kind of money. And many people don't have that kind of money. So that's one of the things that we need in the Caribbean. I'm going to say Caribbean, for our seniors, more affordable senior homes. We need nursing homes, we need assisted living homes, we need independent living facilities, because those resources are really lacking. And we have to really do something about it, because as we all know, people are living longer. People are living a lot longer, and so resources for seniors are more in demand, and we have to keep pace with the times. And sadly, we have not been keeping up. So that is something that we have to keep pressing on our senators, on our leaders, that these things are needed, and they are needed like yesterday. Okay, so in terms of home care also, there are individuals that provide home care services. Many of them are not trained, but they just enjoy taking care of seniors. And so they go into homes and they assist the seniors. There are also home care agencies, and I know of a few And some of them bill Medicare, but there were some also out-of-pocket costs. So I don't know. I know Dr. Pond talked about taking down numbers. I don't know if you're prepared to take down numbers, or I can just text them to Dr. Pond and she can forward them to you. There are places like Dimery Care. It's a home care agency. There's also Heavenly Home, Sweet Home. There's Premier Healthcare Services, and there's Tropical Health and Continuum Care. They provide hospice services. And if you don't know what hospice means, it's when you are coming to your end of your life. You may have a terminal illness, or for whatever reason, you may have 6 months or less to live. And so hospice care comes in and they give you what they call palliative care or comfort care, which is just, as it says, just making you feel comfortable in your last days. So they have social workers, they have nurses, they may have doctors, and they have a chaplain, so that you can have all of these services as you transition to your last days.
Sister Bradley, not to interrupt you, Sister Bradley,
Yes.
1 second. I just 2 things I want now. I'm going to come to you, Dr. Pond, but I see Sister Jocelyn Benaire's hands raised, and then we'll come back to you, Dr. Pond. Sister Jocelyn Benaire, I see a virtual hand raised, and then Dr. Pond.
Thank you, Brother Sam. In reference to the facilities that you just mentioned,
Yes.
is there any accountability check from your office of those persons or those facilities as to what kind of care they're providing or what kind of support they're offering?
That is an excellent question. But as far as I know, there is none. There is none, because they are independent facilities. They're not affiliated with Human Services, so we don't have any oversight. But that is something I'm going to make a note of, because it's an excellent point that you raised.
Okay, to follow that up, in the same vein, are they required to have a particular license for the government, or anyone can just decide they're offering the care and sign them?
Apart from a business license, I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that. It's something I can further investigate, but not to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sister Jocelyn Benaire. Dr. Pond, yes, and then I have a question or comment from the virtual audience for Dr. Pond, yes.
I just wanted her to go back to the names that she was calling and just go a little slower so that we can write.
Okay, so Dimery, I can spell it for you because it's Demarey here. And that number is 998-1604. Can I move on?
Yes.
Heavenly Home, Sweet Home. Uh-oh, forgive that noise you're gonna hear now. Heavenly Home, Sweet Home. 715-5915.
Okay, go ahead.
Premier Healthcare Services, PREMIER, Premier Healthcare Services. 774-7427.
Okay.
Tropical Health, I have to get that number to you.
All right.
Continuum Care, CONTINUUM, there are 2 U's, Continuum Care. 718-5683.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, Sister Bradley, for that information. I think what we might do is, again, get that information, Dr. Pond, compile and send it to our audience even in our next session. But thanks for sharing the information, Sister Bradley. So Bradley, I know this question is directed to you, but you're the presenter, so I guess you gotta take this one here. But what are the local churches, Wesleyans, doing to acquire homes, apartments, etc., to assist in
Not
housing care for seniors or the disabled? So let me read it again, and I know this is for you, but it's a question. You have recently attended a Wesleyan church, so I guess you do have now the credentials to answer this question. But it says, what are the local churches, Wesleyan, doing to acquire homes, apartments, etc., to assist in housing care for seniors or the disabled?
I wish I knew.
And I don't know of any, Dr. Pan. So I think this might be one of those suggestive questions, because I think it heads us in the right direction that as churches, then particularly if you look at the Western churches in this district, I want to assume for the Caribbean, it's mostly comprised of elderly individuals, that churches need to start planning and anticipating the senior care for its members and even its pastors. So I think it's an excellent question, although the answer might be nothing is being done right now. But hopefully this discussion prompts those of you who part of your churches and have any influence, and keeping in mind we're all getting older, that the time to start making those preparations Sister Bradley mentioned is yesterday. All right.
Brother Sam, that has come up several times in conferences, but especially for the pastors, but nothing has been done.
So that being said, so I think we have all 45 participants online. I'm sure you're affiliated with a church, albeit whether it's Wesleyan, Lutheran, Baptist, any church. Okay, let me pass. Sister Orgel Carrillo, I see your mic open. Are you trying to share a question or comment, Sister Orgel Carrillo?
Yes, good night to everyone. I heard Sandra said that she was going to get back with a number for tropical health.
Yes. You
so
have
I
it?
was calling her for that number. It's 340-774-3600.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. And again, what we're going to do, Dr. Ma, we're going to compile all this information. By next session, we'll send it to everyone so everybody have a composite listing of all of the senior care assistance areas in the VI. Sister Justin Bernard, I see your virtual hand raised. Good evening again.
Good evening again. In reference to sending persons, you said that you do not send people to homes, correct?
Correct. But to the home care.
All right, but there's a section where you do send people to do like lighthouse cleaning.
Correct. That's the Homemaker Services program.
Homemaker Services. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Just clarify that.
Thank you for that clarification, Sister Justin. We have a little pause now. If anyone, I know Sister Bradley might be wrapping up, but I just want to give those folks who want to use this pause time any questions, any comments, anything anyone wants to share. Sister Louise Jennings, good evening. Welcome to our discussion. Please go ahead and share your question or comment.
Hi, good evening, Sister Bradley. Just a quick question, just to reiterate, because I invited some persons stateside to listen in. Can you reconfirm the support group days? Is it Tuesdays twice a month or once per month?
It depends on which group it is.
The Alzheimer's support group.
It's once a month, the second Tuesday from 5:30 to 6:30 is on the phone by a conference call.
Okay.
So a part of our, to attend the support groups, you have to be a part of the program, of the caregiver program. And to do that, you complete an application. You come to my office, complete an application. I need a picture ID, and you just commit to attending support groups, and you're in. Okay? And you get all the benefits that we have to offer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So yes, I am wrapping up, but two things I wanted to kind of piggyback on. You mentioned churches, so I'm going to use that to say that the caregiver program has a, let's call it a program called Dorcas Care, D-O-R-C-A-S, Dorcas Care, which is, it's an organization, a nonprofit corporation actually, that we have started. We have been trying to revitalize it And it's mainly our program plus churches. It's faith-based. So our churches, we have a small amount of persons who attend our virtual meetings, but the main purpose is to have an adult daycare center. You know about daycare centers for children. It's an adult daycare center, which we plan to start in the Garden Street Community Center on Saturdays, holidays, well, weekends, so Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from 7:30 to 5:30. And the purpose is to give the caregivers in the community, program, wherever they are, a break. So you can leave your loved one, your senior, at the adult daycare center. You can go to the beach, you can go shopping, you can go whatever you need to do, go back home and do nothing. And we'll provide activities, snacks, refreshments, and those types of things. But we don't need the support of the churches because we are making it a faith-based entity, and to provide things like transportation, to outings, to help to provide meals, and those types of things. So there was a person, a member of your church, who has been attending those meetings. So we have some of the churches involved. So you will learn more about this through her as we get more and more closer to opening our adult daycare center. Hopefully by August, we will begin to accept seniors. Like I said, the caregiver can just go and have a break, and we'll take care of the senior for the Saturday, Sunday, the holidays. Okay, so there was something else that made me think, okay, so talking about home care services, the medical assistance program is called medical assistance, Medicaid, or MAP. That's all the same thing. That's a program under Human Services. You all know the Medicaid program. And that program recently has what's called a personal care attendant program, PCA, whereby Medicaid will pay the personal care attendant to take care of your loved one. But of course, your loved one has to have medical assistance. It's only for medical assistance participants or enrollees. So this is not Medicare, it's Medicaid through Human Services. That Medicaid, MAP, medical assistance, that program has a personal care attendant program. So through that program, if the person has Medicaid alone, then they would qualify. With other insurance, there may be some kind of evaluation or assessment process, but the bottom line is that medical assistance would pay the personal care attendant to take care of your loved one. So there's a doctor involved. The doctor has to do the referral, has to write up what the care needs of this person are, and then the nurses or the nursing assistants or the personal care attendant will go into the home. They have a timesheet where they write down when they were there, what tasks they completed, and those timesheets and other paperwork are submitted to Human Services, and then the reimbursement or the payment of the personal care attendant takes place. So it's no cost to you. The medical assistance program would pay the personal care attendant. And again, your loved one will have to have medical assistance to qualify for this program. Now, finally, when you have a loved one who has Alzheimer's, I don't know, you may have heard this before, that there are certain documents that need to be put in place. Things like an advance directive, and that is a document that tells the doctors, the nurses, what your medical needs, what your medical preferences are, in case that person, your loved one, is unable to voice because they have Alzheimer's or for whatever other reason. They can't say, well, I want to be on life support. Well, I don't want to be on life support. Well, if I have cancer, I don't treat it, just let me die. Those types of decisions, if the person cannot make them, then you can have the advanced medical directive, which is, you can be assisted by our local legal services of the VI department or office. They can help you with that. Power of attorney or guardianship, again, because this person with Alzheimer's cannot make their own decisions. then someone needs to make the decisions for them. And so you can become their power of attorney or their guardian. And
Okay,
guardianship, you have to go to the court. Yes.
Brother Sam.
Yes, good evening,
I think
Dr. Brown.
this information here is too much for us to just slide by it now. I think we need to have a come back next week and give us this part, because this part is very important.
Okay.
And spend more time in it, going slower over it and having people ask questions. This is a very important part. So I don't know what you think. Go ahead. Help me think.
Okay, well, I'm going to help you think right now. So first of all, I'm going to thank Sister Bradley for this powerful information. And I'm glad you touched on the cooperation opportunities with churches, because as rightly asked, churches by and large, I can't speak for every church because I don't attend every church in this district, but the ones I attend are not directly involved with taking care of the seniors. So I'm grateful that you have mentioned that there are corroboration opportunities to work with human services, which you represent, and churches. And I think for those individuals online that represent a church, because either you or your members, and again, the real picture about most of our churches for the Wesleyan in this district mostly comprise of elderly individuals. So if your church is not presently engaged in considering or putting in place senior care activities, we have a wonderful friend of the Wesleyan Church, Sister Bradley. Sister Bradley, could you just mention your contact number at Human Services, please? Because I'm sure that folks might want to reach out to you, not necessarily your personal cell phone number, but the contact number at Human Services so folks could reach you. And I'm encouraging those you online that don't just want to be part of the problem, but part of the solution. Feel free to reach out to Sister Bradley, and I'm sure she'll give you some guidance. Sister Bradley, please share your contact information at Human Services kindly.
At the office, it's 774-0930, extension 4484. That's 774-0930, extension 4484. Lots of fours. And I do have a government cell phone number, and that number is 340-227-7881. 340-227-7881.